Hello and welcome to this episode of The Person Behind the Pen. Oops, I think I just threw myself off stage. My name is Nick and I am the founder of Guiding Brilliant Writers. This is the 4th episode. We started the series just last week and it has been an incredible run thus far. We've had 4 co-authors come on now among the 5 anthologies that were published since December 2023. The last of which was published December of 2024. We have our next one coming out in July, and we are just incredibly excited to keep building. 62 co-authors, their pictures all behind me. Well, there would have been over 100, except many have come back to write for the 2nd and the 3rd time. And I credit this to the incredible experience that they have had, especially the first time. I want to say a dozen and a half, maybe 2 dozen out of that had even considered writing for the first time, far less for being published. They are all best-selling authors now, some #1 best-selling, some #1 international best-selling. Yes, I do differentiate. I do have a standard. I'm very picky. I like to be in the top 10 on the Amazon bestsellers list. A standard that I hold for myself, but also because as a publisher, I choose to set myself apart from the industry standard of what I see mostly out there. So I jumped on LinkedIn, I want to say early 22. Hi, Lisa, and hi, Adrian. Quite by accident, I had a co-worker that had put herself open to work. And she was getting calls from recruiters. I said, "What's up?" She said, "I'm on LinkedIn open for work." And so I popped in there, trolling in the beginning, came across a picture of a doggy laying in a doorway, fell in love with him, made a comment. Turned out he was laying in a doorway of an office, the office of an owner of an elevator company. A few months later, I would go to work for that elevator company. That was about 2.5 years ago. 5 months in, I fell, broke my left kneecap. Not fun. Definitely, not where you want to be 5 months into a job. Um, and ended up with all this time on my hands. 3 months of recovery. During that painful time, I threw myself into my LinkedIn, did a couple of live show guest appearances, and happened upon a beautiful opportunity to write a chapter pro bono. That was the start of it all. I went on in 23 to co-author two more chapters. At the end of 23, it was the next big push, time to publish, and I did. So here I am now, the owner of Guiding Brilliant Writers, having left that job just a couple of months ago to chase my dreams. But I'm not just chasing my dreams, I'm living them. And I'm not just living my dreams. I am not a dreamer, I am a doer with a dream. Um, Dreams don't come true by themselves. You have to work at it, and you have to be prepared, and you have to be willing, yes, to sacrifice. But what is that sacrifice if you truly live for what you do every day? It's not sacrifice, it's work, but it's work you love. So today we have co-author Leslie Flowers. Now I say co-author because she has co-authored now in two anthologies with Guiding Brilliant Writers. Leslie is in her own right an author, a number one international best-selling author. She's written two books, and the most recent being a sci-fi fantasy errata. And we've had the pleasure of being able to promote her audiobook format most recently. Leslie is a coach and mentor and has been for well over 30 years, um, doing so on the principles of Think and Grow Rich, as well as the 12 Laws of Achievement. She has invited me very graciously to co host her Monday Live, um, Mind Over Matter Mondays. And what an experience it's been thus far. I have met so many wonderful people, and I could certainly see why Leslie has this insane amount of people that show up to her Monday show. Um, they always pop in when she's singing her introductory song, something different each time. And I walk away with so much. But I don't just walk away with so much through that, but because of the deep friendship we have, we speak regularly. Um, she's been a good friend to me in many ways, outside of professionally, but personally. So, with that, I am going to bring up our friend. Welcome, Leslie Flowers. Hello.
Hi there, Nick. How are you?
I am great. I am great. A little tough start to the day, but feeling so much better right now. Um, you know, we spoke, I believe, was it yesterday or the day before? And you know a lot of what's going on with me behind the scenes. So I want to thank you for your friendship,
Of course.
for checking in on me, um, and more so for me being able to put my trust in you. Um, that's not something that's taken for granted. I am that person that leads with trust, but honestly, if you lose me, it's going to be very hard to regain that trust. It's not that I don't forgive, but I don't forget. Um, so before we dive in, I want to welcome Lisa Favek and Michelle. I did see Adrian earlier as well. And we want to say thank you so much for coming. Um, the whole purpose of the person behind the pen is to give co authors an opportunity to read their chapter and share their story from their own voice. It will take on a completely different meaning when you hear them read their chapter versus you reading it yourself. Um, the backstage link is also in the comments section of the post of the event, and I will share it as well in a little while. Grab a pen and paper and come up and ask Leslie any questions that you have. This is an opportunity to get to really know the person behind the pen. So, Leslie, please share with us about yourself, and whenever you're ready, you go for it.
Okay. So thank you for inviting me. I have to tell you that I really enjoyed the intro because when we wrote these books, um, this one, wait a second, let's see if I can get it right. And this one, when we wrote these books, we kind of got to know each other. We weren't together, but we did Zoom calls and we created a semblance of relationships, some of which have really stuck, some haven't. So when I watched the intro, it was so nice to see everybody's face, right? And to remind me of the people that I journeyed with in Q4 with these two anthologies with you, which brought me up to 12 books. So I'm very excited about that. And I should have 13, 14, 14 by the end of the year, 15 if I'm motivated enough. Right? Because once you've done it, it's kind of like anything else. Every time you do it, whatever the skill is, the task is, the fears lessen, right? And you already know so much. So you kind of, use your intuition. And that's why it was a lot of fun writing these anthologies, because for me to write a chapter about myself, well, we love to talk about ourselves. So that wasn't hard at all for me. Did you have any questions about either one of the books or the chapters?
No, I want you to read them and then read the one, a message to my family, and then we're definitely going to dig in. Hi, Marissa. Sure. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, yes, it's so good to see you, Marissa. Now, see, she's one of those people
Yeah,
that
she
I
is.
really connected with when we met several times as a group. So I'm so glad to see her here, and Michelle and Adrian and Lisa, um, and everyone, and you especially, Nick. So you want me to read the legacy one? Tell you a little bit about it first?
Yes, absolutely. And that's where I really want to dig in. So I want to give you that chance to, take your time and read the chapter.
Now, let me explain this before I begin, because if you really want to get to know me, I'm going to have to tell you a few things, which is when I was a kid, I didn't pay much attention to my grandmothers, and I loved them. But now, of course, I wish that they were here and I had the foresight to ask them the questions. So my sister's children have been asking me about our parents, my parents, and my sister is in care, so she's unable to share any of that information. So when Nick asked me to write in legacy, I'd been putting off writing my legacy to write the story so that when I'm gone, they'll all know what Nana did. So for Christmas, I gave them all this book. Now, I don't think they've read it. And I doubt that they will until they become sad. They want to think about Nana, right? But I'm perfectly okay with that. For me, this is part one. This December, Lord willing, I will write the rest of it because I've lived a long time. So I have a long story, but I want to capture it. So I'm so grateful that you offered this. And now here's a picture of me. I think you can see it. Oh, shoot. Here we go. Let's see. I thought I had it. Wait a minute. There we go.
There we go. Yes, there we go.
Yeah. You got to get the distance right on
I
the.
know these backgrounds, they're so
Oh, my.
annoying.
Well, yeah, you're right. But that's errata behind me. And so that's where I go in my mind when I hear too much anxiety and I worry about how my grandchildren are going to clean up the freaking mess. We don't have the bandwidth. We did it in the 60s. We marched, we stood for what was right. We got us out of Vietnam. But you know what? We're all old now. So who's going to do it? I don't know. Anyway, So I'll read this for you. I'm so glad you're here. Hey, Jackie, and there's so many lovely people. Okay, so this is part one, the early years. So I realize that there's so much to share, and I hope it's interesting to you. Kind of fun aside.
It's
I,
very interesting. I'm dying for people to hear it because it was just an incredible story. Because I want to say most of the people that wrote in the book are around my age.
yeah,
So like I'm 48, right? Or maybe late 30s, mid 30s,
yeah.
but you're a little bit older and you were able to go a little bit further back. And what I did is I love to visualize. So I was visualizing a lot of the times, the streets, the stores. Anyway, I'm not going to share more.
Well, I've lived a very colorful, blessed life. And I remember someone your age, or maybe no, 10 years younger than you, when she saw all the books, she said, "Oh, I want to do that too." I said, well, she said, "But I've only done, X and Y." I said, "Well, you're half my age. You've got time, right? If you're blessed to live long enough and you continue being creative and exercising your thinking, then you will live a wonderful life. I don't know what I would be like if I had given up at about 50 and just kind of slid through the rest of my life, which many people do. And you can do that. But I have to tell you, I've had more fun this last year than I can remember in a long time. So here we go. Uh, Part one, The Early Years by Leslie Thomas Flowers. Let me get a different pair of glasses. I can see better with these. Okay, there we go. Prologue. Oh, God, I forgot how I started this. I haven't read this. Okay. Some 12 centuries after they met on Earth, Jaya Lee and Stuvan, the first emissaries from the planet Irada, and long since Iradian guardian angels, were sitting together. They were holding hands inside a mesh, egg shaped golden swing on top of an enormous, puffy white cloud, their heads together like lovers when they first meet, talking excitedly. Their love had gone down in history among the greatest lovers of all time, like Orpheus and Eurydice, Paolo and Francesca, Cleopatra and Mark Antony, and Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo. What were they talking about? As we get closer, we see them poring through the leaves of a well-worn old photo album. They were talking about the passing of Leslie Flowers, the last queen of Irada, and their mission was to determine if she would be instated in the Iradian Royal Hall of Spirits, a rare honor indeed. The beginning. Leslie Brooke Thomas, named for her aunts Lena and Bessie, was born at 5 pounds 1 ounce in Brooklyn, New York at Crown Heights Hospital after her father returned from World War II and met his bride-to-be. Murray L. Thomas married Jeanette Helen Green, and they settled in the Crown Heights area of New York. Both their parents emigrated from Poland and Russia in the early 20th century, respectively, coming through Ellis Island, New York, where her father's family last name was shortened from Thomas Posky to Thomas. Her father's mother was the great niece of Leon Trotsky, who was ousted as the next expected leader of Russia by Joseph Stalin. At that time, Stalin exiled Trotsky from Russia, and they settled in Mexico, where they were the guests of Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo for some time. The narrators. Until, Jaya Lee whispered to Stuvan, Uncle Leon had an affair, so the story goes, with Frida Kahlo. Uncle Leon's wife found out, and they left the protection from Stalin's henchmen in Mexico of Diego and Frida's home, and her uncle Leon was almost immediately assassinated by an ice axe to his head. Background. Leslie's mother was born in Boston, the daughter of one of 7 Russian sisters, moving to Maine as children and then to the Boston, Massachusetts area. There, her grandmother's family, Schlossberg, managed 2 businesses: the Green Shoe Company, making Stride Right shoes, deep in downtown Roxbury. When Leslie and her siblings were little, the family would drive past posters with John Kennedy for President plastered on brick building walls. Simmons Mattress Company was the other family business. During those times going into the city, they would stop and pick up 4 live lobsters, which played in an empty bathtub when they got home, to the delight of Leslie, her brother, who came along 5 years after her, and her sister 2 years after him. Then her dad would mercilessly, to the children, stab them while the children squealed, boiled them, and they all feasted. New York to Boston. When Leslie was 3, the family moved to the suburbs outside of Boston, down Route 9 to Natick. They lived there until her father, an engineer, graduated high school at 15, and then from Cooper Union Engineering School in New York at 18. Her father, both an electrical and chemical engineer, was the eldest of 3 boys. The second son, Leo, went on to fund Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada, and the third, Irving, became a world-renowned patent lawyer, leading the U.S. antitrust suit in the 60s against IBM, bundling software with their hardware. Both Leslie's grandfathers died in the Great Spanish Flu epidemic, leaving both grandmothers to raise their family alone. Oddly enough, both ladies began selling foundations. Narrators. Foundations? Asked Stuvan. What are those? He asked Jaya Lee to get the context right. She explained. Before the foundations business, when her boys were young, Leslie's paternal grandmother, Sophie, ran a factory lunch counter from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, leaving her boys to take care of themselves. Sophie Caton ran a ladies' corset and foundation store in downtown Brooklyn, while Sadie Green ran a lingerie counter in Filene's, an upscale department store in Boston. Her children were raised by a maid, Leslie's mother, and brother Jerry. Her uncle Jerry died of a heart attack in his early 40s. Leslie's mother made sure she was trained in voice, theater, and dance, attending the Boston Conservatory of Music each week to study ballet, pointe, and modern dance with Jan Veen, 1903 to 1967. Following 8 years of ballet, Leslie began participating in drama in high school and then repertory theater in Menlo Park, California. Pause. I guess it's okay to say I just recorded on Tuesday another audio book for someone. Hang on, I got to cough again. It's hard to keep talking, even if you love talking. Okay. Her family left New York when she was 3, moved to Natick, and then on to North Carolina, where her father was a celebrated engineer with Western Electric. Adversity. It was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, that Leslie's first experienced discrimination. She was old enough to understand, yet her younger brother and sister were too young and would get off the bus after school in tears. It was 1961, and this Jewish family rented a parish house across a side road from a Baptist church in what was known in the state by many as more discriminating than any other. This was Winston-Salem. Adolf Eichmann was going through an international trial as a World War II Holocaust perpetrator, which made the news. The school children mimicked the hatred of everything not white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, WASP, which they heard repeatedly directly from their parents, chanting ugly phrases at Leslie's brother and sister every day. On to California. When Leslie was in her early teens, her father was hired by Lockheed, and the family moved to Northern California to the same town as Stanford University is located, where Leslie met her first boyfriend. There was her first sense of betrayal. The first boyfriend and the first... Okay. Leslie was quite beautiful, although she had no clue, even with lots of admirers. She was in lockstep with her best friend through the theater and found out unexpectedly one day that her Stanford boyfriend had been seeing her best friend. Meeting celebrities. The year before Leslie graduated from high school, she was accepted into a summer drama program at UCLA, where she performed before Burt Lancaster and roomed with Catherine Grody from the Lemon Sisters and Reds, who went on to marry Mandy Patinkin, Princess Bride. Leslie's high school was situated behind her suburban Eichler home, and one day her mother showed up unexpectedly at the door of her math class. Her mother could not contain herself and had come to let Leslie know that she had been accepted into the number 2 school in the United States for drama, San Francisco State University, right in the middle of the 60s. Her heart grew in San Francisco. Leslie fell in love with her life in San Francisco. The bands played for free in Golden Gate Park every weekend, and she sang in a folk rock band herself. She was the lead singer and played. She was the lead singer. That's a faux pas, if you don't know, right? Did you hear that? She was the lead singer. Okay, that's interesting. She was the lead singer and played rhythm guitar. Routinely, she listened live weekly to the Grateful Dead, Janis Joplin, with Big Brother and the Holding Company, and the Jefferson Airplane, all of them when they were just starting out. In college, she picked up several part-time jobs to supplement her stipend each month from her parents. She was the secretary to the experimental college. If 25 people wanted a class on any subject, they would offer it. She slung hash in the dorm cafeteria on weekends on top of her classroom schedule. It was there that she first tried marijuana, then on to LSD, which was such a frightening experience that she never touched it again. Leslie fell in love in college with a man she still knows today, who published a book of poetry with a friend then, and he shared his love for Leslie in one special poem that she could recite until the day she died. My love is for you, Leslie, pure and beauty, sincere and lovely. Year 1, college. In her first year, her high school chum was also accepted to San Francisco State, and they moved into a private home near campus as roommates. It was there that Leslie began writing poetry, stories, and plays. Her English professor, Dr. Wilder Bentley, a well-known artist at that time, inspired her to write in the author's voice. He instructed the class to write one composition based on the books they would read that semester. After the first one, where Leslie got a C+, she asked Dr. Bentley if she could use other forms of writing besides composition. He agreed, as long as she completed the assignment. The balance of her work in that class denoted A plus, as Leslie wrote the 10th Circle of Hell for Dante's Inferno in Dante's voice, a better final chapter to end Voltaire's Candide, um, in Voltaire, oh, to end Voltaire's Candide in Voltaire's, one more chapter in Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, by Samuel Clemens, and finally a one-act futuristic play in the middle of reading Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett, as though Beckett wrote it himself. Year 2 college. Her second year, she and a roommate took an apartment 2 blocks from the zoo and 4 blocks from the beach. Until the end, Leslie was sure that the Zodiac killer had come to their small apartment complex, repeatedly pressing the bell downstairs to be let in at the corner of 42nd and Vicente. This was 1968, and everyone was frightened. Needless to say, she did not open the door. Whew. Year 3 college. Her third year found her living in the dormitory, and then she got wanderlust and got tired of college. Wings. Accepted next as a stewardess with Northwest Orient Airlines, a born traveler, Leslie moved to Minneapolis to their hub. She loved traveling, and before she died was an astral traveler, headed to worlds she had created, like Errata, as a safe and loving space to go when things seemed to be too much. That only got her started. At that time, flying to Japan and the Orient was super expensive, so she applied to be a flight attendant for a charter airline carrying U.S. troops into and out of Vietnam in Oakland, just across the Bay Bridge from San Francisco. Leslie spent 6 months repeating 7-day flights into and out of Vietnam twice a month, with 2-day layovers in Hawaii, the Philippines, and Japan. Gosh, I've been talking a long time. Okay, I'll keep going. Is anybody falling asleep? I hope not.
Are you kidding me? This is an incredible story. And I was just thinking to myself, people really, they miss out on so much by not taking an opportunity to read or spend a few minutes listening. I'm sorry, you just keep going. I
Oh,
am
I will.
seeing Michelle's comments, and that means she's really listening, and I know she's taking this to
Oh,
heart because I'm still soaking it in.
nobody really knows this. My family hasn't read it yet. So, in all fairness, um, it could be that most everybody here has never read this, except you, who was the was the publisher. So you're really getting to know something about me that really nobody knows. You're the first. Okay. All right. Okay. So I told you that I'd spent 6 months repeating 7-day flights. Oh, God, that was so much fun. Okay. Always seeming to have some kind of luck on her side. On the beginning and first leg of her first 7-day trip to Hawaii, she wanted to go swimming during the layover and put her passport and shot record in the hotel dresser and ran to the beautiful beach. The lesson: never put anything of value in the dresser drawer. The next day, after an 11-hour flight to the Philippines, Leslie had left Hawaii and had left her passport and shot record in the dresser drawer in Hawaii. How could she do the trip without these vital documents? She could not. It seemed impossible. She went to her captain, realizing what she did 4 decades later was to, okay, let me say that again. Realizing that what she did 4 decades later was to seek expert advice, one of Carnegie's principles of success, and told him what happened. He radioed the captain, still in Hawaii, to the Philippines and the next day. Well, there's something funky there, but anyway, we'll figure it out. As the crew deplaned and ours boarded, Their captain handed my papers to her crew captain. Someone or something was taking care of Leslie. San Francisco life. Leslie lived in a flat above a laundromat in San Francisco, at that time at the corner of Castro and Clipper Streets. She lived 10 blocks from Janis Joplin. You knew Janis by her driving her paisley-covered Volkswagen Carmen Ghia, and right down from Castro Street. This area soon became the home to the growing gay community. Leslie's boyfriend was a flamenco guitarist, and she started studying flamenco dance, spending many social evenings at a small restaurant and flamenco hangout just off Columbus and Broadway called La Bodega. At that time, Melvin Belli, who represented Jack Ruby pro bono after Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald, had an office a few blocks away from La Bodega. When she passed by his quaint brick office, she always peered in, imagining what it would be like to be in an office like that, to be in that office. Her wanderlust was not complete as she dropped out of college before finishing her major, drama and humanities, and became a flight attendant with Northwest. She had a travel bug for sure. First marriage. In 1968, Leslie married another flamenco guitarist in Lake Tahoe on the same day Robert Kennedy was assassinated. Her husband was accepted to a university in New York, so they packed up their flat and drove from California to Canada and crossed that country until they got to New York. Their short marriage was during the time that Woodstock occurred in 1969. She was grateful she did not attend because the event turned into a nightmare for most. Another betrayal. Her husband had betrayed her one day by not coming home all night. She flew home the next day, leaving all their wedding gifts behind. One thing for sure about Leslie, when backed into a proverbial corner, she turned and ran. She couldn't stay. Escape route. It started when she and her parents were vacationing at Revere Beach in Massachusetts, and she stepped onto the track and into her first bumper car. These old cars were attached to a metal interior roof with a metal rod that caught the electricity to move the cars. I was younger then, very young. In short order, Leslie got stuck in a whole cluster of unused bumper cars in the corner, and she could not maneuver her way out. She tried everything to move that car, and when there was no way, she jumped out of the car and ran toward her parents waiting outside the arena. The operator was screaming at the top of his lungs as she ran, "Get back into the car!" Leslie never stopped. She didn't care. She was out of there. When things got to be too much for this young girl, she bolted. Before she died, she figured out why, which was wonderful, yet it was a bit too late to make a difference. Always carrying a discomfort with trust, she realized late in life that it was at that same beach, that same year, when the idea of trust dissolved. Next, Leslie saw the great white ladders reaching the sky as she and her father walked by the great roller coaster. He asked her if she wanted to ride. Leslie told him no. He asked if she was sure, and again, she told him no. "No, Daddy." A few minutes later, he guided her into a car to go on another ride. They went through a long, dark tunnel, and when they emerged, Leslie saw before her those ladders looming toward the sky. Her trust disappeared at that moment, broken by her father, never to return again. Narrators. Imagine spending your whole life never really trusting anyone, Stuvan said. I hope we find that one day she did find trust, like you and I did, Jaya Lee said in a soft voice. Second marriage. When she married again at 27, she thought she had perfect trust and faith in her husband and that he would never betray her. He did, but not before she had 30 years of a wonderful life, raising 2 children, focused on virtues, values, and love. It took her 15 years to heal and to forgive herself for being unable to go back and make things better, and to also forgive him. She came full circle with the father of her children, and in January 2024, he passed away with no regrets for either of them. This concludes part one of my legacy.
I don't care if, as the publisher, I sound biased. I don't care if, as your friend, I sound biased. You have led an incredible life. We all have in our own way. And what means the most to me out of anything else is the thing that I don't think people get about me, and why it is I am in this publishing industry. Um, it's not so I could stand to would publish on a book, trust me. It's because of these beautiful stories, these legacies, these things that I would never learn about people that I say hello to, or that whose events I attend, whose courses I participate in, whose subscriptions I subscribe to. I mean, this is your opportunity to really, really get to know people. Um, you shared so much in there that I only know of, right? But here I know a person now that lived it. The things that you hear about, right?
Yes, Jackie, I could have, but let me tell you, it was misery for those people. It was pure misery. And I was in New York. There were no bathroom facilities, there was no food, and it rained like crazy. You know, I wrote this to my children and grandchildren, right? I wanted them to know. Thank you, Sandra. I wanted them to know what they know me as Uber Nana, right? As they're growing up, there are four of them, the grandkids. You're welcome. Thank you, Adrian. You know, when you have four children and they're all around the same age, two are within 2 weeks of each other, and two are a couple of years after, a year apart, there's everything. They're going left, right, center, dance, voice, theater, baseball, gymnastics, you name it, right? Basketball. So I was Uber Nana. I was always picking them up for school, taking them from one place to another, right? And now they're all driving. So they know me, but they know me as Nana who spoils them rotten, right? So
Yes, yes. It's like my son, um, Jamie Rainsbrook. It's so nice to see you. Thank you so much for coming. And Dr. Tanya, I see you too. Jackie, I
yes,
see you
hi, hi.
too. So, when I think about this, right, our kids know us a certain way. My son knows me a certain way. Like I said, I wrote in both legacy books, and my son has signed copies from me, and he's not read either of them. But I know a day will come, and I don't mean it to be sad, when he will read those books that I've written about him, to him, about the family history, and they're going to mean something to him. And it's something that he's going to want to share with his future generations. And that's why legacy means so much to me.
Mm,
It's passing down the history. You talked about your family passing through Ellis Island, and when I met you, one of the things that I was so resonant with me is that my mom's name was Leslie, and this year she passed away 8 years. She was just 61 when she died. I was 41 and my son was 20, and my grandmother was still alive. She passed away a few years ago at 90, so she had a long life. At one point, there were four generations alive in my family. My grandmother, my son's great grandmother, him being the first great grandchild, was helping to raise him while I was working, right? What I would give to have this from my
mm,
mother in my
mm,
hand.
mm,
And I dedicated the very first book in this to her. because I have a couple of her scrapbooks, if you will, from business where she wrote, like, and that scrolling handwriting, I just think to myself, if those were letters to me. And so, what was also very meaningful in the first legacy, a note to my family, I got my sister and her husband to write a joint chapter in it, right? And I listened to your story and I think I heard Jackie say a comment there that she doesn't believe anybody in her family read the story. Listen, I don't think anybody in my family, outside of my sister and her husband who wrote it, I don't think any of my aunts have. I don't think uncles have, cousins, nobody. But one day they will. Um, and just think about it, guys. Think about somebody in generations from now picking this up, going, wow, Uva Nana was an author? This was her life? Like, where were we? Where were we when all of this was going
They're
on?
living their lives because I remember, I like I said, I love my nanas too, and what they did for me. In fact, I remember being sick in New York um, with that first marriage, and I had the flu or something, and my grandmother, who was like in her 80s, lived about 20 blocks from me. She cooked chicken soup and walked the whole way. This is the woman, right? This woman walked everywhere, right? I mean, she just these women who raised families once the husbands had died in that case from the great Spanish flu epidemic. Um, you know, they had no experience in going to business other than, managing a household. And I know that my father's mother, my grandma, Nana Sophie, she worked 12 hours in the basement of a manufacturing facility at the lunch counter while her three little boys pretty well were latchkey children. So it was very difficult, I think, back then. It's difficult now, but it was really difficult for them. And then my mother's mother had a maid, right? So that's the difference between having money and not having money. There was money, with Stride Right Shoes and Green Shoe Company and Simmons Mattress Company. But my father's family, the three men, though, were did I mention? Oh yeah, I did. So that my uncle Leo funded and built Caesar's Palace, and we got to go there when I was a kid, right when it opened. It was so much fun. Actually, this brings up a very awful experience which I'm not going to share, but I just remembered something. Okay, and then my uncle Irving was the patent lawyer. And you can look him up. His last name is Kayton, Kayton, and he was the guy who unbundled IBM. So, and my father was worked on Nike Zeus, anti-missile, and Polaris, which were for the government. These were weapons of protection. So yeah, it's been
It's such a rich history. And, I think, God willing, I live for another 20 years, I'm going to have a rich history to share as well.
yeah.
And I love that you're here and sharing this. And,
Thank
it
you.
makes me think, gee, in the last months, I took care of my grandmother and watched her deteriorate. And oh, how I wish I'd written her story. And, just, and then I think that we met, and I think that your last name, family's last name was changed from Tominski to Thomas, right?
Thomas
Um,
Polsky
Thomas
to
Polsky.
Thomas. Mhm.
And my mother's maiden name is Thomas.
Oh,
So it's
that's so
like,
funny.
it's just so, everything's just so, like, I was meant to meet you. And my mom was Leslie and Thomas became
And,
Leslie
and
and Guy.
I was Leslie Brooke Thomas.
So it's like the first name, the last name, and my grandmother had six children, and my grandfather died very young of
Mm,
a heart attack.
mm.
And so I believe the youngest was still a teen, maybe when, and she had them like one after the other, right? So like the first three are
Yeah.
like a year apart. Um, so she was left raising six children. I think my mom was the only one to get married at that time. Um, so, but when this happened, so she was a manager, became a manager in a very well-known store back home in Trinidad called Kripalani's, and that's how she was able to take care of them. But when I hear the stories of the parties they had, and the kids would all be in their rooms in their PJs, and trying to just peek out at what was happening. It's just
This is
you know
great. This is so important. I've got chills because I realize that we don't really know each other very well. We don't really know, and I know that reading these stories are really the inside track to getting to know people. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
we speak so often, Leslie, and we know so much about each other now, and so much we have learned through these projects, and still there's so much to discover.
Yeah. Well, you
And
have it too. You just have to get older so you can look back and you just have to get older. That's all.
I'm ready. I'm just
And
like,
this only came up to a certain point. That's why I want to be part of this December's or this year's legacy because I have children that came along. I mean, there's another a half of my life, right, that isn't even touched here, but I wanted to make sure that my sister's kids and my own kids and the grandchildren know these things, have access to them when they get curious, just like I did when it was too late. For them, it won't be too late.
I know. I never dreamed this would happen when, the first legacy book came out end of 23, and 24 people would come back and write. And now people in 24 want to come back and write in 25. Another year of our life is another addition to our legacy. And it really is. And when I think about how many of these could be written and so much of your lifetime covered in it, anyway, the QR code to purchase A Message to My Family, I'm Here and You Are My Legacy, and read Leslie's wonderful story to somebody you care about very much is in the QR code just above my shoulder. You can purchase your copy on Amazon, and you know, so much is coming down the pike for guiding brilliant writers, and a lot of the support and the groundwork being built now has to do with the communities that I have around me, and Leslie's a big part of that. So I want to thank you so very much as we wrap up.
Sure.
Um, I am going to see you soon. Well, Monday, we're on Mind Over Matter Mondays at 10 a.m. So please join us. You get to really and truly experience Leslie in a different way if you haven't. Uh, she has a beautiful voice. I can't wait till one day we sing together. We're still working that out. Um, but please come and join us on Monday at Mind Over Matter Mondays. And this, of course, is the person behind the pen, and we're here every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. with 62 courses and just 4 in now. Trust me, this show is going to be going for a long time, especially with the next anthology coming July 1st, which is We Choose to Be More Than Our Diagnoses. So, Leslie, I'm going to bring you backstage and I'm going to start wrapping up. All right.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so much
much.
for joining us.
Totally my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity. I hadn't actually read that since I submitted it. So it
And
was good.
I've heard that from quite a few. So I'm so happy for the revisit for people as well.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for coming and your kind words.
All right. If you have been here with us and caught any part of this show, I don't think that it's possible for a person to walk away and not have taken something away from this experience. It's impossible. If you're not a writer, if you're not a storyteller, you still have a journey. Even if you never write it, I hope that you sit with yourself and tell yourself your own story and own your story. There's so much beauty in it, in the good, in the bad, in the every part of it. Um, I believe in the power of writing. I believe in the power of the emotions you can evoke using your words in others. I believe in the need to identify with each other. Some of us have walked similar journeys, some very different, but we are all human. We are all in this world together. We all want love and happiness and laughter. And I want everyone to want that for each other as well. And if you can, bring it to bring it about. So, up next for Guiding Brilliant Writers, we are publishing the second book from Jack Torrance. Jack Torrance is a new psychological author. We published his first book on March 15th, part one of a trilogy, The Silent Canvas. Up next, coming in early May, are short stories. Now, this one's a real, like, horror, okay? This is not like a psychological thriller. So, if you love horror stories, please follow Guiding Brilliant Writers, see what's going on, and follow. I did just post a short video on the Guiding Brilliant Writers page as well. And those who follow me and know me understand the importance of transparency to me. I do not believe there is any shame in asking for help. Many have asked me for help, and where I can, I am so happy to. But I can tell you this, I have been blessed that work has booked up and come this year. It's a first year. It's going to be tough. I know that, and I'm ready. And launch your proceeds with Guiding Brilliant Writers anthologies always go to a nonprofit. And should this is going to come out now, but something very special is happening here. Starting with the next anthology and moving forward, um, I have decided that the first 3 months of sales are actually royalties going to be split with all the co-authors. That was the decision that I made. Um, it's a precedent that I want to set, yes, but I also know that driving sales is very difficult, and it starts with visibility. The stories are there to be shared. They're wonderful stories, and you will see when you look at that post that there's nothing wrong with asking for help. And quite frankly, most people want to help. They would help if they knew. And if you don't ask, then how would you know? So I am not afraid to say I left my job 2 months ago. I found a Guiding Brilliant Writers. We're on the right track. I need your help. It's that simple. I need your help to put the word out there about the business and all the wonderful people that are choosing to own their stories and write. Please feel free to reach out to me if you need anything. And if I can support you in any way, my friends will tell you that I will find the time to do it because that is who I am. So, with that, I'm going to take us out. It's a couple minutes too. Thank you so much to all the co authors, to all the people in the audience. You, you give people like me hope. Hope that it's okay for us to have a passion and want to share it with the world. And it's okay for us to want to choose a life that might be perhaps financially a little less secure or a little less on the materialistic side to fill the need for the impact that we make and what really fills us up. And you're able to do that for somebody like me. So greatly appreciate it. And we will see you next week on another episode of Guiding Brilliant Writers, the person behind the pen. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.